Alright, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Rainmakers Top 50 Men's Wrestlers of 2024. Just to remind you guys, this is considering all work that wrestlers have done in ring from December 2023 to November 2024. Starting off the list with number 50, The Beast Mortos. One of the most pleasant surprises from AEW this year, Beast Mortos was a major player in the amazing run Collision went on this summer in the esports arena. One of the most exciting luchadors in the world right now, Mortos' high-impact offense mixed with his incredible athleticism and his ability to be a phenomenal base for his opponents will make him a consistent force on AEW TV going into 2025 because he's just that good at enhancing talent. Number 49, Will Hobbs. In a company filled with smaller wrestlers and big fancy high spots, Will Hobbs stands out because of his simplicity. He's a big bad motherfucker that will run through people. He's called Powerhouse Hobbs for a reason, and additionally his assets lend to him being a great tag wrestler, which is where he does his best work all year. The only thing holding him back from being higher on this list was injuries taking him out for about half the entire year, but it seems like he's getting back to work this year in 2025 with his work against Jon Moxley. Number 48, Randy Orton. Man, it feels good to have Randy Orton back. His comeback run has been some of the most fresh and energetic performances he's had in the past 15 years. There's a simple but effective through line with much of Randy Orton's work this year. How do you wrestle with a bad back when nearly every move in wrestling involves landing flat on your back? The boring rest spot segments of his previous work is replaced with expressive selling performances. It's a joy to have Orton back at the top of his game, and that's why he's my pick for Comeback Wrestler of the Year. Number 47, Lee Moriarty, one of the most underrated wrestlers of the 2020s, a secret of Ring of Honor. Lee Moriarty is one of the few highlights going in that promotion this year. The mini push on TV he got in the spring was very welcome, as he became a part of the Collision lineup with facing Jon Moxley and Shibata. His work as ROH Pure Champion is some of the best technical wrestling you'll see in the US this year. With Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta graduating from the Pure division to being top players in AEW, fingers crossed, Lee Moriarty does the same soon. Number 46, Adam Copeland. Yeah, I already made a 30-minute long video about this guy about a month or two ago, so just insert that video here. Number 45, Jack Perry. Despite what many will have you think, the scapegoat gimmick is fucking incredible. A whiny nepo baby with a victim mentality despite being a hand-picked star by the company. Jack Perry is one of the best heels in the business. His character work is incredible, with a shit-eating grin on him at all the time. Slowing things down as a heel has helped his in-ring work tremendously. I love how he bumps for Danielson in their all-out match, and goddamn it, Jack Perry's just a fucking star. Number 44, El Phantasmo. Prayers up for El Phantasmo. He recently came back from a battle of cancer, and it's very nice to see him recover so quickly. Phantasmo has long been one of my favorites on the New Japan roster. His athleticism matched with his likability and connection to the crowd. Is ELP the smartest wrestler? No. Does he often overdo it in his matches? Yes. Is he still really fucking fun to watch though? Hell yeah. Number 43, Calvin Tankman. Calvin Tankman is on the short list of highlights from the US indie scene this year. There's been a lot of talk about the word aura in wrestling, but Tankman coming out to Hail Mary by Tupac as he gets ready to kill your favorite indie darling will make you feel more than any 30-minute Bloodline segment in the world. Tankman is what happens when a monster is properly booked like one and is one of the biggest beneficiaries of DPW booking style this year. Number 42, Henare. Big boys that hit hard has been a theme for the first part of this list, and it continues with Henare. He's been a great addition to the adrenaline rush known as the never open weight division in New Japan. Henare felt like a shot in the arm and provided a sense of energy that were severely lacking in the New Japan mid-card this year. Number 41, Mascara Dorada. maybe the best athlete, pure athlete in wrestling today. Watching Mascara Dorada can at times feel like you're watching 1997 Rey Mysterio. Along with Atlantis Jr. and Soberano Jr., Mascara Dorada is a standout among this generation of luchadors, and out of anyone, would be my pick to one day replace Mystico as the top star of the company. There's a reason Dorada is often one of the guys CMLL sends to AEW or New Japan. He's a shining example of the beauty of Lucha Libre wrestling. Number 40, Hiromu Takahashi. Hiromu is one of my guys, man. He's a part of my all-time favorite New Japan stable, Los Ingobernables de Japón. He's a junior heavyweight legend. He's great. But this year, what he really showed, as opposed to a lot of his other years, is his versatility. He entered the heavyweight scene while still holding things down with a great Best of Super Junior run, good tag matches alongside Tetsuya Naito, and even having a little stint in Mexico that was really fun, facing the likes of Mystico and CMLL. Number 39, speaking of one of my guys, Jeff Cobb. God damn, Jeff Cobb is awesome. Really glad he got his title run this year with the New Japan TV title. The 15-minute time limit stipulation helped keep his matches more focused. He's got the athleticism, he's got the charisma. Please, for the love of God, New Japan, shift the focus of your product to guys like Jeff Cobb instead of guys like Sonata. Number 38, the ageless wonder, Christian Cage. Christian Cage continues to be one of the best character workers on any roster in the world. It's all the little details in his matches that impress me. How he's able to slow things down and control, while he adds a bunch of pieces to how he structures a match. It makes everything so much more interesting when he's in the ring. It's rare he has a poorly paced match, no matter the length, which is something you can't say about a lot of wrestlers nowadays. It's really, he brings that old school energy to his matches. That's really appreciated on the AEW roster. Number 37, Volador Jr. I don't really have much to say about Volador Jr. He's really underrated, probably because he's not as flashy as guys like Mascara Dorada or Mystico. He's not as, instantly healing as an Atlantis Jr. or Soberano Jr., but he's still comfortably a top 5 wrestler in CMLL, the best wrestling company in the world right now. Just a real dog. You can just put him in there, face or heel, trios, tags, or singles, and he'll get the job done. Number 36 is Ricochet. Good for Ricochet. After years of poor booking, he finally gets the focus he deserves. It's not just his AEW run, but his last few months with WWE had some really exciting TV bangers. Once you get over the expectations you have of a Ricochet match, and instead appreciate his work for what it is, he's still pretty damn good, and I've really enjoyed his character work throughout 2024 in AEW, along with, again, his great TV matches against the likes of Will Ospreay, Ilya Dragunov, and, who else? Carmella Hayes. Number 35, Jake Something. My personal pick for Indie Wrestler of the Year, Jake Something is just a brick wall of adrenaline, like if Donkey Kong was a wrestler. There are so many unique power moves in his arsenal, with how he transitions people into powerbomb positions. His selling is great, giving him more depth as a wrestler when he has to limb sell his knee or his arm. With him now being DPW World Champion, I could see him rising on this list next year if DPW books him as well as they've booked their previous champions. Number 34, Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta gets a lot of hate online, and frankly, those people don't know ball. The common complaint is that he doesn't have a personality, which, fuck you if you think that. His selling is consistently great, both as face and as a heel. Watch his match with Anthony Henry. Outside of anything with Hangman, it might be my favorite individual acting performance from any match of any company this year. Wheeler is such a hateable little shit, and God, I love him for that. Number 33, Kaito Kiyomiya. Shout out Kazuchika Okada for embarrassing Kaito last year in 2023, because since that match last year, Kaito has been one of the best big main event wrestlers in the world. He's basically single-handedly holding up Pro Wrestling Noah, along with a couple other solid people. His fiery comebacks, the way he can get the shit beat out of him without feeling weak. He's a freaking star and is such a fucking great Muda uh, student. He's more than worthy of being an ace of any Japanese promotion right now. Number 32 is Kyle O'Reilly. This one's gonna be super short. It's just nice to see Kyle O'Reilly back to wrestling. No notes, but AEW, please, for the love of God, get him away from Adam Cole. He definitely benefited of being part of the conglomeration with their run of great TV tag matches. Yeah, it's just nice to have Kyle back. Number 31, Kyle Fletcher, from one Kyle to another. This is the most begrudging entry on the list for me. I did not see the hype with Fletcher for years. I saw him as a slightly worse Ospreay, and honestly, that's also how he's kind of been booked for most of his career. But man, his heel turn has completely flipped my opinion on him. He carries himself like an absolute star. Being a heel makes him slow things down and leads to actually well-paced matches that fixes a lot of the excesses of his work. All his offense is snug and hits well, and he still has the athleticism needed to perform crazy high spots. Low-key, he's a better version of MJF right now. Hot take, maybe? Number 30, Drew McIntyre. I cannot fucking, holy shit, that was a bad Scottish accent. Drew McIntyre, WWE's best heel and probably best character of the year. No matter how hard WWE tried to ruin the Punk feud with friendship bracelets and Seth Rollins, Drew's promo work made the Punk feud the best in WWE this year. The Hell in a Cell match is a genuine Match of the Year contender, an old-school bloodbath with possibly the gnarliest bump taken by someone not named Darby Allin all year. Now can we please get that Roman match soon? Number 29, Josh Alexander. Do you know how good someone has to be to work in TNA and make the top 50 for me? Comparing Josh Allen to Kurt Angle is overplayed and doesn't really work. You know, because Josh is Canadian. Surprisingly, Josh would play the heel for most of the year, and he did so with the necessary amount of ruthlessness and aggression needed for the role. It's also really funny that out of all of his best matches happened either outside of TNA or with a non-TNA wrestler, with his Takeshita match happening in Maple Leaf Pro, and his best TNA match being against Will Ospreay. Would love to see a Josh Alexander run in Japan. He would be a really good participant for the G1 Climax. Number 28, Pac. You ever see how Pac sells a DDT? Yeah, that's like 50% why he's on the list. He's also here because of how great he is as a tag wrestler. The wild card of the Death Riders, his addition as the crazy, deranged killer fills out the group's dynamic perfectly, with Mox as the world champ, and the rest of the Death Riders serving as stepping stones, while still being threats in their own right. AEW will probably be filled with more great TV tags in 2025, and I expect Pac to be a big part of those. Number 27, David Finlay. Last year, I was pretty low on Finlay as the new leader of the Bullet Club. His run in the G1 that year was nothing special, and it definitely took him some time to grow into his character. But when he finally unlocked something with his global title run, he became a highlight of New Japan. He's this cocky and brutal brawler, roughing up the native babyfaces like a true classic gaijin. His G1 run this year was great with killer fight after killer fight. With the help of Gabe Kidd, he's really injected some life back into the Bullet Club name. And with the slogan, if you can't bring gold, bring bodies. Number 26, Brody King. Brody King did pretty much all of his best work at the end of 2023 in the Continental Classic, where he was probably the MVP with his great matches against Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson. An unstoppable monster with one of my favorite movesets in wrestling. You want to talk about realism in wrestling? Brody King is the most obvious threat to everybody he faces. An unstoppable mountain for our heroes to try to climb up. Any match he has against Darby Allin could be considered the craziest match of any year. He always knows how much to give to his opponent, showing brief signs of vulnerability with his selling that sucks you into the story. He's one of the best big men in all of wrestling, maybe aside from Gunther. Number 25, Gabe Kidd. Gabe Kidd just gets it, man. He understands the assignment. A true gaijin, no matter who he faces, he can get the crowd invested with the energy he brings to the ring. This is a guy that understands fighting spirit. Gabe is so good at going wobbly on the cell, like he's about to fall over and die before snapping back with a stiff strike. The crazy man gimmick suits him so well, and 2025 could see Gabe rise to being the top heel in all of New Japan. He is the fucking man to represent this next generation of non-native stars. Number 24, Tomohiro Ishii. I I mean, he's on these lists every year. Ishii, good. Write what you will about that. Number 23 is Jay White. The Switchblade, baby. Jay White is such a smart wrestler. The way he structures a match, his limb selling, never wasting movement, the way he sells, the way he carries himself, the promos, every little technical thing that gets a mark like me wet, Jay White does incredibly well. What's insane is that he turned face, changed basically nothing about himself, and is still great. He's this sneaky, lovable bastard, like an alley cat that you adopt, and sure, it bites you, but eventually it will love you, maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just stuck with a shitty cat. This metaphor has gotten ahead of myself. Jay White is incredible. He's one of the smartest guys in the ring. Um, just the bravado he carries himself is just so pro wrestling. You gotta stop and watch anytime he's on your TV screen. Number 22, Yoda Suzy. Fucking hell, Yoda Tsuji. Best young guy in New Japan. Tsuji is so obviously a star, it's almost like insufferable. He's got the size, the speed, the striking ability, but his charisma is probably his best quality. There's still some clunky moments in his matches that show his age, especially in the big Broadway matches that New Japan like to do, but with how flashy his work is, it's easily forgived. I'll be shocked if Tsuji isn't world champion at some point in 2025. He really should be the flag bearer for New Japan. They try to do the whole Three Musketeers with him, Shota, and Ren Narita, but fuck the big three. It's just Big Yuta. Number 21 is Sami Zayn. WWE's second best of the year. This was another career year for Zayn. His style of underdog babyface comeback fire is a formula that works every single time. Even as age takes away parts of his athleticism, Zayn relies much more on his selling to carry his matches. Every match Zayn either feels like a miracle worker, a triumphant conqueror, or a victim. The most naturally likable man in the world, Zayn might be top 50 all time, and personally, he might be my favorite babyface ever. Number 20 is Speedball Mike Bailey. Mike Bailey has a very specific formula. It can sometimes feel uninspired when he doesn't have the right opponent, but when he does, he's one of the best in the world. He's gonna do the high spots, the kickouts, the flippy shit. He's gonna sell the leg and probably forget about it halfway through. But he just is so likable, and the formula it works. It works nearly every time. Mike Bailey is one of the best in TNA and on the independent scene. Number 19, the best WWE wrestler in the world this year, Gunther, by a pretty large margin as well, is one of the few attractions left in wrestling. Every Gunther match has this layer of brutality you don't see anywhere else in the Fed. Every move might be a finisher because every move looks and sounds like death. He's the perfect big man wrestler. A true ace figure, you can put the entire industry on his back and he will carry it with prestige and honor. Number 18, Danny Boy Danny Garcia. Shout out Prograps, the number one Danny Boy fan I know. The slow rise of Daniel Garcia has been so satisfying to watch. I'm not saying that AEW is doing one long chess move of booking, but instead I think Garcia's natural likability and technical ability has forced Tony Khan's hand into making him a mainstay in AEW. From getting over with a silly dance, to showing his improved mic skills, to establish himself as a genuinely great character worker, Garcia has this 2013 Daniel Bryan feeling that it's the crowd to hang on everything he does. Watch Garcia literally power through his pain because of the support from those who believe him. That spot in the C2 is one of the purest moments of wrestling storytelling all year. That, ladies and gentlemen, is pro wrestling. Number 17 is Shingo Takagi. They call him the Rampage Dragon in Japan for a reason. One simple point at the camera and a scream of "Kita kita kita," and the crowd goes crazy. There's a reason he's been beloved for 20 years. Every night he seems to give his all in the ring, in some adrenaline-injecting matches perfect for a company built on fighting spirit. Shingo is a wrestler to be enjoyed solely on the vibes of seeing a badass heavyweight decapitate opponents with heavy lariats. Number 16, Mystico. A lot of American fans like myself have been introduced to the world of Arena Mexico this year. In the land of the oldest wrestling promotion in the world, one man stands tall as the hero, the ace, the king of Lucha Libre, the living legend Mystico. Most Mystico matches follow a simple formula. Initially besting his opponent before an extended beatdown segment. Finally, the comeback happens where we get all the signature spots, the top rope Spanish fly, and the big dives, confusing his opponent long enough for him to lock in the La Mystica armbar, defeating the villain. Its simplicity is its strength, with nearly any opponent being able to slide into the structure and add their own quirks. It's comfort food wrestling, like chicken noodle soup, or I guess more culturally appropriate, Zoli. Number 15 is Eddie Kingston. If this list was just from December 2023 to May of 2024, Kingston would be in consideration for maybe the number one slot. In this period, he has an incredible tournament run, proves he isn't a choke artist by beating the greatest of all time, following his idols by creating a triple crown, and eventually loses his 3 titles in a series of great matches. Eddie Kingston simply proves every night with his passion and relatability that to him, pro wrestling is the most important thing in the world. Heel up, Mad King. Number 14 is Kazuchika Okada. A lot of people don't think Okada has had a good year in 2024, and my only question is, have you watched his matches? He's still great, and honestly his heel run has been fascinating in how natural he is at it. Okada leverages his status as a legend to become this dominant, bullying force. His matches create this massive gap in prestige that his opponents have to catch up to. Why the hell would a pipsqueak like Daniel Garcia stand a chance against a pro wrestling god like Okada? And like all great heels, he gives so much to his opponents on the sell, making every comeback spot feel earned, making you believe the impossible before a swift dropkick, elbow, and Rainmaker brings you back down to reality. There's a reason I named my channel after his finisher. It's a definitive statement, a point of impact. The Rainmaker. Number 13 is Orange Cassidy, the heart of all elite pro wrestling. Orange Cassidy is one of the most natural baby faces in the history of the sport. 2024 has been an up and down year for OC. He lost friends, gained friends, lost titles, watched his friends die, and slowly grew into accepting his role as a leader and guide for the next generation. Despite the outward character aesthetic, the story of Orange Cassidy is of a man trying his best in a harsh world that punishes those who care. Number 12 is Hechicero. If Mystico is the Mufasa of CMLL, Hechicero is the Scar, and I guess that makes Mascara Dorada Simba? Is Volador Jr. Zazu? Whatever. Anyway, it makes sense that Hechicero has a sorcerer gimmick because between the ropes, he's a technical wizard. Holy shit, man. Every Hechicero match is filled with engaging and creative little sequences that will catch your eye. It's a must-see attraction that proves that the outdated idea of technical wrestling is boring is complete bullshit. Go watch every single Hechicero match you can find. Number 11 is Roderick Strong. Sometimes wrestling booking is simple. Just get an absolute dog and let him cook. Roderick Strong is the ultimate example of that. He's just a guy that beats the shit out of you, giving the hardest chops and most brutal suplexes. Give him an opponent as athletic and risk-taking as an Orange Cassidy, Will Ospreay, and Darby Allin, or as expressive as a Mark Briscoe or MJF. And Roderick Strong is so goddamn good on offense, like holy shit, I love him. A true messiah of not only the backbreaker, but just in-ring work in general. Moving into the top 10, we have number 10, Mark Briscoe. God bless Mark Briscoe. Not a single man in pro wrestling is better at invoking the old school 80s NWA wrestling feeling than Briscoe. Mark has such a raw, unbridled showcase of emotion in his matches. The passion on display is otherworldly. It's beyond infectious. Every comeback segment in a Briscoe match will get you standing on your feet, cheering for him to pull through. Mark Briscoe is pro wrestling. Number 9, Hangman Adam Page. Best wrestler, best character wrestling was seen hands down. Every match, every movement, every promo serves to fulfill a single narrative of a man falling into madness over a perceived wrong that cannot be avenged. Motherfuckers like to talk about cinema in pro wrestling, but always miss the point that pro wrestling is cinema. Nothing is more cinematic this year in wrestling than Hangman bashing a man's skull in and then looking on in front of thousands of people that once cheered him as a hero, now looking on in disgust. 2024 was another year in the great tale of the Hangman, AEW's main character. Number 8 is Claudio Castagnoli, the greatest tag wrestler of all time. Claudio's constantly putting in the work, having banger after banger every month for 20 years. His work in CMLL was the most unique of the year, easily transitioning to a world-class base for the CMLL Luchadors. Fucking love Claudio, and I'm gonna continue singing his praises all the way into 2025. Number 7 is Darby Allin, the best TV singles wrestler in the world right now. Every time Darby has a match, something insane happens. His 2024 is filled with crazy bumps and nasty spots. AEW is filled with heel factions this year from the Elite, the Don Callis family, and the Death Riders. And through it all, Darby has established himself as the defender of all Elite Pro Wrestling, taking up the mantle from Sting in his war against the NWO. Darby is the perfect guy for the job as well, willing to throw his body around just to defend the place he calls home. Please don't fuck up his world title win in 2025, TK. I beg of you. Number 6, a guy who most would put in the top 5, but he just barely missed it for me, is Swerve Strickland. Best AEW title run since Kenny Omega. Swerve is everything you want in a modern top guy. Athleticism, charisma. I didn't love the work with Joe, but everything after the title win has been great. Being in the main event forces Swerve to slow down a bit and let his character work carry him. Swerve is the only man who can make goofy-ass spots like the stapler stuff in Blood and Guts, the no-sell of the Busaiku knee, and the needle stuff in the cage match work. With anyone else, these spots would come off as corny and trying too hard. But with Swerve, it works because, holy shit, he's just so fucking cool. And here we are at the top 5 wrestlers of 2024, starting with number 5, Will Ospreay. Last year's Wrestler of the Year, lands himself in the top 5 for the 3rd year in a row. Ospreay's matches are an adrenaline rush of high spots as always, but every now and then you get a match where he slows down a bit, such as with Danielson or Roderick Strong. These matches are great for all the geeks out there like me, but let's be honest. Those watching Ospreay are doing it for the flippy shit, and I mean, yeah, he gives you all that you want from him. A big part of 2024 Ospreay is the crowd engagement. Big dumb spots in the no-selling works a lot more when thousands of people are fully invested and are chanting Ospreay, Ospreay with your theme song. Number 4 is the best technical wrestler in the world, Zack Sabre Jr. Finally, after years of grinding it out, ZSJ has established himself as the undisputed number 1 guy in Japanese pro wrestling. Along with Bryan Danielson and Hechicero, he makes up the big 3 of technical wrestling. The philosophy of always switching holds every few seconds both works as a kayfabe strategy and as a way of keeping the action fast-paced even on the mat. I also love how he's not perfect. His ego drives him to try to fight opponents in ways he's disadvantaged at, such as throwing big bombs with Shingo or the outside brawls with Gabe Kidd. In a down period for New Japan, Zack has rose to the occasion and has had a career year. Number 3 is Jon Moxley. Last year, Mox was runner-up for Wrestler of the Year. The year before that, he was number 1. And as I grow and develop my taste as a wrestling fan, one thing remains consistent. Jon Moxley just runs this shit. His vision for pro wrestling and the violent beauty of it all Even before the Death Rider storyline thrusted him back into the front of the wrestling world, Mox's work is filled with great stuff. Early on, he has some solid TV work on Collision. He's a fantastic Rudo down in Mexico, and he channels the great gaijins of the past, such as Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody, as he becomes a monster in Japan. It's not the greatest run, mostly because he faces some pre-week competition, such as Shota Umino and Ren Narita. Then the Death Riders happens. Mox takes his role as a necessary evil, frustrated that no one can replace him and Danielson, so instead he goes insane and kills Danielson, tries to kill a few others, generally becomes a grumpy man. Every Death Rider segment is a highlight of the week. Mox is going to burn AEW to the ground and hope someone will rise to his level. Because let's be honest, when it comes to the 2020s in wrestling, no one's above Mox. Number 2, my runner-up is Konosuke Takeshita. If I had to build a wrestler from the ground up, it would look like Konosuke Takeshita. The strikes, the look, the build, the strength, the speed, the athleticism. God created a man so perfect for pro wrestling, it would frankly take someone so talented, so dedicated, with such a masterful understanding of pro wrestling to take Wrestler of the Year away from Takeshita. And if you can count, then you know that one man did. And that is number 1, Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson is simply the greatest pro wrestler of all time. This year, he finally got his flowers while also tying up some loose ends of his career. He got to participate in the C2, fulfilling a goal of wrestling in a major round-robin tournament. He settled the score with both Eddie Kingston and Nigel McGuinness, got both the Hero's Triumph and the Tragic Downfall all in the span of a few months. Some people don't love the neck selling and see it as a bit much, but I mean, if you have shooting pains up and down your body, I think you're allowed to use that in your wrestling match. I'm gonna miss the GOAT so much, but at least for one more year, we can all call Bryan Danielson the best in the world. Thank you guys, and next week we'll be going over the big one, my top 50 matches of 2024.